So there are a number of reasons why we should prosecute war criminals, government officials who commit crimes against humanity. First and foremost, the most obvious reason is that their actions are morally reprehensible. As human beings, we should have empathy for other human beings. So individuals that inflict human suffering on a mass scale should be punished because that's the right thing to do. Now, second of all, if we don't punish war criminals, then their successors will know that they can do the same things, commit the same exact crimes, and get away with it. But not only that, because as former vice president and war criminal Dick Cheney is proving, war criminals will also continue to advocate for more war crimes because they haven't been punished for them. Now, as Newsweek explains here, Dick Cheney would restart the United States' torture program. So this is exactly why we have to prosecute war criminals. Because my guess would be that Dick Cheney would be a lot less enthusiastic about advocating for war crimes if he was doing it behind bars. He is an individual who should be rotting away in prison for the rest of his life. But instead, he's openly advocating for more war crimes to be committed. But you see, in America, we don't just not punish individuals who commit crimes against humanity, who commit literal war crimes. We actually reward them with powerful positions in government. And by now, you all know that Donald Trump nominated Gina Haspel to replace Mike Pompeo as the CIA director. And she's a disgusting individual not only because she joyfully tortured human beings while she oversaw a CIA black site in Thailand, but she also destroyed evidence of said torture. However, a former CIA operations officer named Karen DeLacy claims that we should overlook the fact that Gina Haspel is a war criminal because she's a woman. I'm not joking about that. This was literally an argument someone made, a supposedly serious person made, in favor of Gina Haspel. DeLacy actually penned an op-ed in the Washington Post, who should have never published it, but nonetheless they did, and it's titled, "Gina Haspel Can Help Fix the CIA's Gender Problem." Well, thank God. Might not solve their torture problem, but at least it'll fix their gender issue, right? I mean, is that not the most neoliberal headline you've ever read in your entire life? I never thought that the common goal of equality would devolve into discussions about war criminals getting adequate gender representation at the fucking CIA. I mean, this is ridiculous. These people are so superficial and vapid in their political ideology that they don't give a damn about the crimes these criminals committed. They only care that human rights atrocities are being committed by both men and women. Donald Trump actually invoked identity politics as well, citing how, Gina Haspel is a woman. Why would Democrats be opposed to a woman? Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. So if you don't like her, well, you could fill in the blank. It must be because you're sexist. Now, unfortunately for everyone, the way in which Republicans are now invoking identity politics to defend Gina Haspel, well, that argument kind of has a leg to stand on now because they are pointing out the inherent hypocrisy with Democrats, because 36 of them that now oppose Gina Haspel also voted for President Obama's pick to lead the CIA in 2013, John Brennan, who was also a torturous war criminal just like Gina Haspel, who, like her, should also be rotting away behind bars right now. In fact, even Bernie Sanders, a progressive, voted for John Brennan in 2013, and when Jake Tapper asked them about this vote and asked them to defend his decision and asked them how he could defend his vote for John Brennan but be against Gina Haspel, isn't this a double standard? Bernie Sanders, for the first time in a while, really had nothing meaningful to say.
Senator, I want to ask you, one of President Trump's major nominees is on the docket for the Senate this week, Gina Haspel, nominated to be the next CIA director, the first woman CIA director. You've announced your opposition to that pick. Now, I have to ask, both Gina Haspel and former CIA director John Brennan were in the CIA when enhanced interrogation techniques, otherwise known by human rights groups as torture, were used. A lot of people who oppose Haspel's nomination now over waterboarding, etc., voted yes when John Brennan was nominated by President Obama back in 2013, including you. Why? Why is Brennan okay, but Gina Haspel is not?
Well, on this one, I would agree with John McCain and tell you that I think, and tell you what our leaders in the armed forces say. If the United States condones torture for other people, then that subjects our own men and women who are captured to be tortured as well. I think Brennan did a good job in his position. I have serious reservations about this nominee, and I will oppose her.
But you didn't have reservations about John Brennan. You voted for John Brennan. I guess my question is, well, whatever reservations you have about Gina Haspel, why didn't they apply to Obama's nominee?
It's not just, Jake, it's not just the issue of torture. It goes, I think, deeper than that, and that is the foreign policy that we have seen from Mr. Trump, which was repeated today by John Bolton, something that I also strongly disagree with.
Your former
which is one of the reasons I voted. I voted against Pompeo as well.
Yeah, that was incredibly difficult to watch because Bernie Sanders, like a lot of Democrats currently, are backed into a corner. But here's how I would have responded if I were in Bernie Sanders' position. I would have said, look, you know what? I was wrong, and you're right, this is hypocritical. I should have never voted for John Brennan, but unfortunately, I gave President Obama the benefit of the doubt, and I supported his nominee, when in actuality, I should have held Obama to a higher standard because he claims to have the moral high ground. He claims to be against torture, so he should never be rewarding war criminals with high government positions. He should have prosecuted them. So I was wrong then, and now I'm righting that wrong by opposing Gina Haspel. That should have been Bernie Sanders' response. But unfortunately, I mean, Republicans just know how to play politics better than Democrats, and they've backed them into a corner to where now it seems as though Gina Haspel will almost certainly get confirmed. Democrats know this is the case, which is why many of them are now announcing support for Gina Haspel. We currently have, count them, 5 Democrats who will be supporting Gina Haspel. That includes Joe Manchin, Joe Donnelly, Heidi Heitkamp, Mark Warner, and recently Bill Nelson just announced that he will be supporting her confirmation. Now, because there are 2 Republicans who will be opposing Haspel, including Rand Paul and John McCain, that means that Democrats are single-handedly making her confirmation a reality. They could resist, like they claimed they would do when Trump was first elected, and stop her from getting nominated. But in fact, in this case, it is because of them that Gina Haspel will be confirmed. This is wrong. As a society, we have to come out and say no to war criminals. I shouldn't have to even state the fact that we should never reward people who committed war crimes with jobs. They should be isolated. They should be unhireable in American politics. But, I mean, they get rewarded constantly. And yes, neoliberals, that includes female war criminals as well. Because think about this. When we talk about our commitment to human rights and respect for humanity and repeat these beliefs over and over and over again, we look like goddamn fools to everyone who's watching around the world because they know it's all just lip service. We don't care about human rights because we are promoting human rights violators within our own government. And I saw a comment on Twitter. I don't remember who said it. I think it was Glenn Greenwald. And it made a lot of sense. He said, if Gina Haspel gets confirmed, that will say more about our own government and society than it does about her. And that couldn't be more correct. Because these types of people should never, ever have a chance. But welcome to America in 2018, where progressives can barely win because neoliberal establishment Democrats rig primaries against them, but war criminals are promoted all the time. It is a sick world we are living in. I don't have the words to express just how disgusting this is. So, I mean, she's probably going to get confirmed. If I am wrong here, I will happily eat my own words. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem as though Democrats are going to put up a fight.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.